Hello and welcome back to another Milsurp HQ podcast. I'm Tom, and of course I'm joined by the king of the sideburns, Kelly. What's up?
Howdy everyone, good to be back.
So today we're going to focus on a rifle that uses my favorite action, the Mauser action, of course. And like the podcast title says, we have some super knowledgeable guests on the show today to help us share some good info with you. And so I gathered my questions and put together a few games, and I'm very excited to talk to this amazing source.
Yeah, today we're going to be discussing one of the most well-known Milsurp guns of all time. Everyone's heard of it, but do they really know it? That's right, we're going to talk about the German K98k rifle. These excellent rifles are renowned worldwide as one of, if not the best, military bolt-action rifles. And after the end of World War II, millions made their way over here to the US and across the globe into the hands of collectors. But despite being so widespread and beloved, they are one of the most difficult rifles to collect because there's just like so many details and intricacies to know about them. One could really spend years researching these rifles to really know all that there is, such as our distinguished guest today. That's right, I'm excited to bring you and to talk with the amazing sources, the authors of what is known as the book on K98s, Bruce Karem and Michael Steves.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Thank you all for joining us. We're very excited to have y'all on.
Glad to be here.
Yep, glad to be here.
Very exciting.
So, the first thing we like to ask all of our guests is, what kind of collector are you? I think we might already know the answer to this because that's why you're here, but what kind of collector are you? Are you a pattern collector, so you collect a lot of the same rifles and try to get all the different little ones, different manufacturers, different stampings, things like that? Or are you more kind of a widespread collector where you like to get one of everything?
Mike, you start.
I am a pattern collector, but I also collect other than K98Ks. I have all kinds of rifles, but my main collection is 98Ks, and I have a lot of variations.
Thank God, because I was saying if you didn't collect any of them, that would be strange.
That would be strange.
So I'm glad you collect a lot of them. What about you, Bruce?
I guess I'm also a pattern collector, but I'm very targeted for one manufacturer. I collect the Mauser company specifically in terms of both the parent factory in Oberndorf and the satellite facility in Berlin, or Borsigwalde, or Wittnau is basically people characterize it as. But that's me. I'm a Mauser guy, actually.
Very nice. I don't think
All
we've
right.
had a specific manufacturer collector yet.
No.
Well, the thing about it is Mauser is so big that it's
Yeah, it's not hard to find a lot of them.
well, to collect the whole suite would be nearly impossible because it's so diverse between all the manufacturers and the variations. It's immense.
Well, how close are you to completing your goal?
In terms of
K98.
well, in regards to Mauser and Mauser Berlin, I'm really short just one code. So
Wow.
Wow. Well, can you tell us what it is in case someone knows?
I need a 1938 early year S/243 code. That's
Wow.
it.
That's crazy. There's so many different ones. I'm assuming you're talking the SWP1s and all those late ones too, right?
Well, Mike can fill that in.
Oh, actually, I'm the late war collector. That was my initial thing, as I collected everything that was December 1944 and later. And when I started out, I would not buy anything if it wasn't 1945 dated. And it's true. In fact, when me and Bruce met, that's how we met. I was buying 45 dated rifles from him, and we kicked it off. But yeah, that's how specific I was. Only 1945.
Wow.
And you set up a website dedicated to it as well.
Yeah, latewar.com. Set that up 15, 20 years ago.
And I was no joke. I was on it last night, and I was like, "This looks like the same site he had set up from 15 years ago."
It's the same. I need to update it, but
No, but I didn't mean it in a bad way. I
Yeah.
meant I
Oh, it's
meant like
old.
this. You've been doing it a long time.
Oh yeah, I've been doing it a
Well,
long time.
that's, I mean, the big kahuna is the K98k forum, obviously, but
Right, and I
Yeah.
see the inception of it there on the page. It says we've just set up a forum.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true. We we set up the forum after the first book, Kriegsmodel, and it's been going ever since.
Well, you just said Kriegsmodel. Now, I've been debating: is it Kriegsmodell? Is it Kriegsmodel? Is it standard model? Standard model? Could you give me some clarity on that, please?
If you're from Texas, it's Kriegsmodel.
I like that. There you go. Go with that.
Exactly. I don't know what the proper pronunciation is, honestly.
I think if you were probably more Germanized, it would be Modell, but I think we all pretty much Kriegsmodel or standard model. But I think the Germans would pronounce it Kriegsmodell, but it's cutting teeth there.
And as far as I've been calling it the K98k, but of course you can call it the Car98k, the 98k, as the books are, the Carabiner 98k. What do you use the most? And are you angry at people that use K98, which there's a bunch of people that say that's the Polish one or that's the Gewehr 98, or like, where are you on that? What do you use?
I love I love anybody that talks about Mausers. I don't care what they call them. If they call it a K98, it gives me an opening to talk about K98Ks and the differences. So it all depends on how you feel, and
Oh, I've
I'm
seen it on
I'm
your
good.
forums. Some people yelling, saying the K98's the Polish
Yes,
AZ, and
there are some people out there. I mean, we don't have a hive mind on the forum. We have a lot of points of view, and we let people roam free. We give people freedom there to act stupid or smart, whichever.
That's true.
That I
that's
do
true.
appreciate that.
There's no censorship. It's free reign.
And it's not out of control. I've been there enough times to know it's not
No,
out of control.
we've got some pretty good people that keep things on the straight and narrow. But I
Well,
would, in my experience, I think most when you're at a show and stuff, I'm 98Ks. I mean, that's like
Mhm.
that's a generic term, 98Ks.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty much you hear all those, but if you say car 98 or a 98K, people know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Actually, if somebody says Car 98, I would almost assume that was the World War One carbine rather than World War II rifle.
True.
But
Yeah.
say we'd be wasting your talents if we didn't ask you, a lot of K98 questions and get your opinions and stuff. But first, we're very curious how you two got together and how you ended up writing 3 books, and most of all, how you got past that part where you say, "Hey, we should write a book." Yeah, you're right. How'd you move further than that?
well,
Because it's
just
hard to
real
do.
quick, there's actually 2 more that we're going to be working on, so it'll end up being 5.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, hey, that was the spoiler for the what's next questions. But
Mike, why don't you
that's
lead
great
off?
news.
So originally, Bruce is from the pre-internet era as a collector. He's mostly at the end of the internet era, and I was the 1998 era and on, which that's the advent of the internet. So I was in there at the beginning, and I went to forums because that's what internet people do. And Bruce was a KCN member, but he migrated to forums because that's where the stuff was if you want to try to buy things.
Yep.
And we met on the forum somewhat, you don't really know anybody, just posting things. And in about 2006, I think, I decided that there was too many there was too much noise on internet forums to actually get anything done as far as like learn anything. So I created a Yahoo group that I brought all these people in that I thought, okay, this guy's smart, that guy's smart, this guy's smart, and this guy, he has a lot of stuff. And we had a group, a fairly large group of people on a Yahoo group. It was an email group, and we actually started talking about writing a book as a group. And
And
me
that
and
was at the
Bruce,
time that was on which rifle though? I know it's
98K.
K98, but which
Yeah,
all of them
90,
or the
all of
40
them.
19?
Well,
Okay.
now see, that was the thing. The initial discussion was, hey, we should take Backbone of the Wehrmacht, which is a decent book, and update it. And we were pretty much told someone had already attempted that, and Blake Stevens decided, no one's touching Backbone. That's the bread and butter of collector's grade.
Yep.
So we kind of we started kicking ideas around, and the group got smaller as people were less interested in writing a book, and it kind of came to a loggerhead where some people wanted to write a book on each manufacturer, like Steyr, Mauser, JP Sauer, Irma, and like most book projects, like you said, it just kind of fell apart. And
That-
but me and Bruce,
that's a big undertaking at that point.
yes, and that's what it is. It's a lot of work. Everybody wants to write a book, but
Right.
it's difficult. And we got down to the point where me and Bruce were I was noticing in him that he's more driven. And then I found out he had already written a book. Y'all may not know that
Oh,
before the 98K books. Bruce?
no. What was it?
Yeah, I actually wrote a book on 8498 bayonets, 1908 to 1933. That was my first project that actually was printed,
Wow.
and that was
I
in
think I need
actually
that.
we released it in February 2004, but most of the work was done in 2003.
Okay. That was going to be
Yeah.
another one of our questions on accessories. What would be a good source for those? It sounds like you're the source already.
Oh, yeah. Well, when we started talking, and since I was a late war collector, I only collected 45 date, and I had a lot of really nice examples. Bruce had all the Mauser Oberndorf, and he's like, you know what? 1945 date guns are the most misunderstood because nothing is serial numbered. And
Right.
we decided together, hey, that's the book we're going to write. And
And it was going to be called Kriegsmodel, not
mhm,
Volume 3, just Kriegsmodel.
yeah, we were only going to write one book,
Yeah, one
just
book.
one.
And that tells you how crazy the world of the K98 is with K98k. Let me just say, I didn't mean the other one. Is that the 1 year can take up a whole book.
Yes.
Oh yeah, actually less than a year, like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6
Wow.
months, and we left out the majority of information in that book. We didn't even cover everything
Why is that?
because a lot of it's too hard to research. There's no documents. There's nothing. It was basically a collector reference based on known examples, and
Well, and
uh,
one thing Kelly and I were wondering was how did you get a lot of German information? Like,
ah,
was it easy to get your hands on? You had to get based on the charts I've seen. You had to get your hands on a lot of factory
we had a
documents.
secret weapon.
Secret.
Oh,
Got a friend over
We had a
there?
Yeah.
secret weapon. So we were just about to go to print with Kriegsmodel. We were in the final stages. And in order to get that book done properly, what we did is we sent chapters of the book to different people and who we considered experts in that, Mauser or Sauer or whoever. Well, there's no Sauer in 45. Uh, and one day out of the blue, Bruce gets an email from John Speed.
oh,
John Speed.
Let me
there's the
give you
Mauser
some.
book.
Let me give you some background on that. Actually, a good friend of mine is Bob Landis. He owns Ohio Ordnance,
Ooh, okay.
and he's a big one of the largest Mauser factory collectors in the country. And he's pretty good. He's on really good friends with John Speed, and I got John's contact through Bob when Mike and I were working, and I just kind of basically cold emailed him. And of course, I had Bob to back the project up saying, hey, these guys are serious. And I got an email, and then it just cascaded from there. And once John realized that we were serious guys and actually, we're going to actually accomplish something, and once we got to know him, the floodgates opened up. And the really ironic part about it is that actually also kind of caused us to do an update to Kriegsmodel when we reprinted. When we released Volume 1, we actually at the same time released an updated version of Kriegsmodel, and that's when we called that Volume 3. But
And that's because John Speed, I know, has lots of German documents and gets his hands on a lot of things.
well, he's
So is that why you had to update?
he's behind the collector grade, the Mauser trainers, the sporters, Mauser archive. He's got his, he's responsible for contributions to a bunch of other publications as well. And
So he has
then,
like a lot of first-hand documentation and things like that.
well, John Speed's got probably the largest personal archive of Mauser factory documentation in the world.
Wow.
The best way to find something is go to John and say, John, I need you to look for this. Look at the, like let's say you find a stamp trigger guard that's really odd. You say, John, tell me if you've seen anything like this. And he goes, oh, and he'll go look, and he goes through the documents, pulls out a plate with a photo, and he scans it, sends it back. Says, here you go. This is when that was made. It was, an experimental sheet metal trigger guard, and so he's got so much stuff. It's
Wow.
just
So he's a real good resource.
he's
Oh,
a
he's
very good resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like the resource to have.
It is. Well, when we finished Kriegsmodel, we were like, okay, good, we're done. This book is done. And Bruce and John were talking, and John goes, oh no, you're not done. You have much more to do.
Yeah,
And
that was
Bruce
just
calls me, he goes, Mike, looks like we're writing the rest of the story. And I was like, what? Let me break that to my wife.
3
it might
books later.
be multiple books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were adding it up. It's almost 2,000 pages between the 3 volumes.
And are you happy with all your final products? All 3?
Yeah. So far.
Uh-oh.
Well, Kriegsmodel / Volume 3 was our first project, and we learned a boatload in terms of both working on that project. And when we went into Volume 1, which is the next project, we basically looked at Kriegsmodel Volume 3 and said, you know what, this can be upgraded and we can improve it. So basically, Volume 1 and Volume 2 were a lot denser than Volume 3 of Kriegsmodel. So we decided to maximize every available page we had in terms of no wasted space, be as efficient as we can in presentation, just make sure all the information is as concise as we can so we can put more stuff in there.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions of like, what did you learn, and like, what were some of the biggest takeaways?
From an editing and a content standpoint, Michael will agree with me. I think you look at Kriegsmodel, look at Volume 1, they're a lot different.
Very much.
I mean, there's similarities, but when you open a Volume 1, it's like, holy shit, it's like, excuse my language, but yeah, it's just, you can tell that we learned a ton between jointly working on Volume 3 Kriegsmodel and then going into the next 2 volumes.
Volume 2, I was looking at last night and thinking to myself, I love the use of the bold text for certain parts, the use of the space. I was even thinking you have sometimes 3, 4 pictures on a page, and the amount of documents you've put in here is amazing.
I think we've got a really good balance between historical material and historical material, images, and actual text.
And let me say, I kept thinking I was pulling double pages every time I turned a page. That's how nice the pages are, man.
Bruce, you can tell them a little bit about we actually were in complete control of every aspect of the book. We
Oh,
we
wow.
literally did everything ourselves, including Bruce choosing the paper.
Well, basically,
Great job.
we actually had an agreement with Schiffer, and once I saw the contract, I just said, no, we're not doing this, because Schiffer wanted to basically own the whole project, and I said, no, we're not doing that. So that's when Mike and I decided we're going to just do this ourselves. And I'm really glad we did it, because we have total control over editing the content, who prints it. Mike, you might want to add to that.
Well, I mean, you said it. We chose an American company to print our books. We
Yeah,
didn't
not
print
in
them overseas.
Thailand.
Yeah. It was the actual company that did it prints college textbooks. So,
Okay,
Yeah, I could see that.
that makes sense.
and we chose heavy paper that's
Yeah, it's
polished and enameled. It's high quality. We wanted a book that would last 100 years.
yes, it
And
definitely will.
And
yeah.
that's one of the things that well, even when we released Kriegsmodel, everybody was going, "Hey, the quality is really high." And once we saw the finished product, it was like we were both really pleased.
And I do love that you put nice color photos of, say, like 6 different Oilers or something next to each other, so
Yeah.
you could compare them, and it's something that's useful on top
Well,
of just looking good.
I think you'll see that follows through all their volumes is you'll see we call them gallery photos, like groups of guns together, so you can compare them all.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's really
Stock
Bayonets,
helpful.
colors.
cleaning kits,
yeah, I love that. I've seen a million K98s, and when I look there, I stop, I have to go through each one and see, "Okay, this changed, this is different, the stamp
Well,
band." Love
it's
that.
almost a sign of the times because we printed this book at almost the exact moment that color plate printing was the same price as black and white. So a lot of the guys that did books before us had the constraints of price, and our books are done. Uh, they're not digital print;
no, they're offset.
they're offset print, which is even more expensive. But it's really not when you do a large volume. So it
And it
was.
looks better for the close-ups and all that.
Hmm.
The way you did it looks great.
Well, they're actually running an offset press, and they're Smythe sewn too, and case bound. So
Well,
it's as good as you can get.
so Bruce, you're speaking about the photography and the quality of it. Bruce actually spent a lot of time developing our photography style. He did all that. I would just copy it, and he had it down to a science where we would actually send cameras and lighting to someone for them to set up and take their own photos and then send everything back. It was quite the.
For all the pictures and everything, was that all like stuff that you owned, or you went and like visited and saw, or did you like collect from
Oh,
different sources?
it was a massive effort on multiple fronts to accumulate the images for everything in the books. Multiple collections. Sure, Mike and I have a lot of the guns, but there was people that actually. Let me give a shout out to Bob Jensen because his collection is primarily pictured in Backbone, and I had talked to Bob numerous times on the phone, and I asked him if I could come down and shoot some of his collection for Volume 1. And so I ended up spending 3 days staying at his house, not even met him personally. So him and his wife fed me, and I, went down to his basement for 2.5 days and just set up a little, ad lib photo studio and shot a lot of the guns, a lot of the rifles in Volume 1 that were in his collection. It was amazing. People were, you know, different Bud Pierce, Robert Jensen, just different collectors. That
Yeah, I had
open their whole collection to us. And even Mike, you can mention some of the guys down in
I
Texas and Louisiana.
I had the same thing. I drove to people's homes and they put me up for the weekend. They gave me space and they manually brought rifles to me and I took photos for days. And like Craig
Wow.
Davidson, I think in Louisiana, and Dave Davis in Texas. So there was a lot of cooperation with the collectors, and a lot of that happened after Kriegsmodel because, like I said, everyone's going to write a book, but once you do it and people know, hey, these guys are serious, a lot of people opened up their collections to us
Yeah, you're
for
not just
that.
some guy on the internet like, hey, can I take a picture of your guns?
Yeah, I mean, we had gravitas, so to speak. We
Well,
had
yeah, you're right.
a book under our belt, and they knew that we were writing another book. But that also opened up a lot of internet connection to the German collectors. There's some really good guys over in Germany that helped us with the book that we couldn't
Uh,
have done without.
I'm
Like,
sure you needed some translating too.
Yeah.
Well, that was done on multiple fronts between, well, Mike did a lot of it himself. We had a woman in Jersey do it, a lot of it. And then we had another guy named Stefan Hansen in Germany, came in late, did a boatload of translations in Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Yeah, it was really great as the books progressed. It was almost divine intervention where, let's say, oh, Bruce, we really need somebody in Germany that's good with technical German. And boop, someone would pop up and say, hey, I'm
Yeah.
Stefan, and I'm a technical German writer. Would you like assistance? It was kind of crazy. But
That's
we've
fun.
made a lot of friends doing this project, these books. It's been
Well,
great.
I think one thing that Mike and I agree on too is that the books were
Uh
Uh-oh, Bruce crashed. He needs 5
Fell
more
over.
minutes for his
oh.
phone.
We might have crashed.
Uh, I could tell a neat story about the beginning of this project. I'm I'm very artistic because of my job. I'm that's what I am. I'm an artist. That's what I kind of do for a living.
Oh,
Bruce is an electrical engineer, so he's very technical, and
sorry about that. I dropped
that's
off.
okay. I'm telling
okay.
I'm telling a story about you and me and our styles. So I'm very
You both use two different parts of your brain.
right. I'm artistic. He's technical. And when we sat down and started on Creek's model, he wrote a chapter and I wrote a chapter. We split everything evenly. And I said, okay, I'm going to read yours. You read mine. And we sent them to each other. And Bruce is reading mine. He's like, oh, this is terrible. And I read his and I was like, oh my God, this is too hard to read because he was very dry and technical and factual. And
He sounds like my man.
I'm colloquial. That's what Bruce told me. He goes, "Your writing is very colloquial." I had to look it up. I didn't even know what it meant. And I don't know how, but we we had a couple of beers and we worked it out. And I don't know how Bruce moderated his technical and I moderated my colloquial. You can almost not tell what part of the book was written by who. And they're about 50-50.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
that's impressive. Because yeah, it's hard to get that balance. It's usually
It's
one way or another, kind of leaning.
Yeah, and especially with 2 people. But, the bonus to having 2 people and writing a book is you have someone to keep you honest or, keep you working.
Keep you on
And
point.
yeah, I didn't wanna let Bruce down by not doing my share. We would have weekly meetings like, "Oh, where are you at? Let's see your progress." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm working. I'm working." But
That's
it
good. Some people just need a little tiny kick in the ass to get going.
yeah,
I
and
think
Bruce is a machine. He's a machine. There's no doubt about it.
no. It got
Yeah.
really tough at the end as Volume 2 was winding down. It was really hard.
Well, we
It
know
was
whose name is first on the book, so
no,
he must be the
no.
machine.
It goes backwards. His name is first on Krieg's model.
Okay.
That's
My name
good.
is first on Creek's model. When volume 1 came up, I was like, "Okay, you can have your name can be first."
Flatbeds.
And when volume 2 came around, he's like, "Well, we'll just do my name first." I'm like, "Sure, no problem."
Okay.
It's the honest truth is all I did was sweep the floor and get coffee. Bruce wrote
Yeah.
the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is with us. Tom does most of the work
Well,
here.
No,
you know,
you know
it,
what? We're not egotistical, neither one of us. And it's not about whose name is first for either one of us. But the next book will be my name first. So
Well, we also didn't want to put our pictures in the inset because it's like that's just not us.
right. I don't think I'd want to do that.
no.
I have about 7 or 8 searches because I'm still looking for a nice cheap volume 1 that I don't have to refinance the mortgage for. So
I'll send
uh,
you one.
I put it as Karem and Steves though, because it's the
Well,
way it is on the cover.
I'm
Wow.
not I'm not gonna send you one then. Bruce
That
can
that,
send
that
it.
yeah, that affects the search.
Yeah.
That's
That's a more expensive version.
maybe someone's desperate that they need to sell their books. No, but
Actually, at the
they've become
last
a
show of
commodity.
at the last show of shows, there was a guy that was selling volume 1 And I walk up to the table. I'm like, "Oh, I'll take it." And he looks at the book. He looks at my name tag. He goes, "You wrote this book?" I was like, "Yes." He goes, "You're buying the book you wrote?" I was like, "Yeah, I can't find them." So,
Yes.
so I have one if you want it.
I'm
I've
not
got
gonna
one.
I'm not gonna take it. I
No,
would, but I'm not gonna. On the
I'll
podcast, I'm
sell
gonna
it to
say I'm
you.
not gonna. Yeah, well, let's do that.
I'll sell it to you. It's a numbered copy.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
you'll get a discount rate.
No, he won't. No.
You
Full
bitch.
market price. A little bit extra because of the source.
So
Hey,
that's the only one you're missing. You actually have Kriegsmodel?
yeah, somewhere here. Well, the ones I've been reading the last few days though is volume 2A because it's A and B. It's the last one I got,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so
That's
it's
the
been a
last
while.
book.
Right. So I've been trying to catch up. Oh, that reminds me. One of my friends had a question. And then we can move on from the book if you're sick of
Sure,
talking
go
about it.
ahead.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's asking what was the most difficult maker or model year, like to get information on what factory
Ooh.
or if it was a particular year or.
It's gonna be different for each of us because we split it. I can tell you for
Oh,
me, it was, Irma. There's just no
Well, actually, you
information.
know what? I was gonna say Irma or BLM, Lubecker.
Is that
Yeah.
just because like a lot of the records were lost, or they just didn't do a
The
whole lot of
factory
records?
got the factory got bombed flat
Ah,
in
that'll do it.
1944, I think.
Yeah, Irma was really hard to get original information on. It was lean. It was very lean.
The guy that ran Irma was he was a very big promoter of himself, if you know what I mean. He was very narcissistic, and
Mike, was that
there's
Geipel?
Geipel,
Yep.
and there's a lot of stuff about him that he wrote himself, telling
Mm,
everyone how good he was, and but it was difficult to find information on Irma, the company.
Yeah. Yep. Those two, BLM and Irma, were the toughest two.
Especially like Irma sold out in 1941 and becomes FIMA,
yeah,
which
it's
that's
a little
right.
confusing. I'm never sure exactly what year that was.
you're going to find out in volume 1. I have all that. I wrote that chapter.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's laid out pretty good. I
Well,
did.
yeah, FIMA ended in 41 and
No,
BLM
Irma.
ended in 42.
Oh yeah, you're right. FIMA ended in 41.
Yep. So that's one of the reasons why it's lean because they didn't really produce deep into the war.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And were they one of the places that were then making parts later on though?
Yes.
So they weren't
Um,
bombed out yet, maybe.
FIMA made receivers all the way till 1944,
A lot
and
of those
then
companies like
BLM
that,
just stopped. They
yeah,
were
a lot of
they
those
switched over to K43 and
and the
G41.
and the FIMA company, Irma, switched over to MP44s
Oh,
and component production.
oh,
Yeah,
so Berlin
BLM
Lubricants switched to G41s.
G41, G43s. Yep.
No, oh yeah,
Now,
on that
now,
that
B,
was
now BLM continued to make guns all the way into 45 under the auspice, K43s into 45.
yeah, that was another question that we had gathered is why didn't Walther ever make K98s? But it was always a
I can answer that.
oh
I
yeah,
can
all
answer
right,
that because Walther has no factory space
mm,
for large scale production. So,
They were doing
They made
B38s.
receivers.
yes. So Walther made two of the most expensive parts for the K98K, the receiver and the rear sight assemblies. The stock is the most expensive part to make. But what happened was in World War One, there was a consortium of makers in the Sewell region that got together to build Gewehr 98s. And after the war, they all start making, adding machines and bicycles and, non-military things. And when World War II was ramping up, uh, Fritz Walther was a huge Nazi. And he had a lot of connections. And he went to the German military and says, "Hey, we want to make guns again." And I mean, this I never found documents to prove this, but it's pretty clear that Walther put together the contract to make 98Ks again, and they did the same thing as World War One. J.P. Sauer assembled guns. Heinel made stocks. Walther made receivers and sights, other smaller companies made all the other, minor parts. But the reason Walther never made 98Ks is because they didn't need to. They were making money. And this is another thing that most people don't realize in 98K stuff is these companies were businesses. Their job was to make money. And Walther made a lot of money making receivers and rear sights, and look how small they are. They didn't need space to make
Well,
that.
just look at the factory. You see pictures of the inside of the factory, and it's just jammed in there. There was absolutely no more factory space available if they wanted to actually assemble 98Ks. There was no room. Mike's right.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
took on other projects like the G41. They had P38s they were making.
Well, a lot of that was done in Neuengamme, the satellite factory, because
Okay.
they didn't have the room. Those K-43s were mostly assembled off-site under the concentration camp system, with using forced labor, according to Darren Weaver's books, which I like.
We're gonna get to some concentration camp questions too, because I have some
Sure.
questions here that we got from some friends and some listeners and social media send emails and stuff like that. So
We can cover
and
that later.
we're gonna come back to the book here with about what's next. Maybe I'll cut out that you guys said you're gonna actually write more.
Yeah, do that. Because Bruce let the cat out of the bag too early.
'Cause
Bruce, I
that's
Sorry.
told
exciting.
you, let's
Yep.
do this at the end. No.
Spoiler alert.
Right. That's very
Well,
exciting. You got me
let's
all
reset.
you
Yeah,
piqued my
definitely
interest here.
definitely cut that out, and let's make that let's make that the last thing, because that's what people, they have something to look forward to if they like our books.
Oh, and another question, or one last thing on the books. Maybe we could also have this at the end, but everyone always asks if they're ever going to be reprinted. We've heard that a lot.
Yeah, right.
Everybody asks that.
Yep.
Okay. I guess I can cover this. Bruce could probably answer it too, but it's expensive
Yep.
to print books. We self-financed the printing of every copy. We didn't have a company like Schiffer or Collector Grade to do it, so we printed approximately 2,500 copies of each book. So there's a mate for every set. We printed a little bit more of Volume 2 because we knew it would be the best. And some people would only want the wartime years. But as far as reprinting,
That's a tough call. Question unanswered for now.
All right. We'll leave it at
So
that.
so if I can get some financing from some outside company, you guys would be all down for reprinting though,
no,
right?
no, because Bruce is tired of shipping. That this was the deal we made. I do all of the business end. He does all of the manual shipping. He's my shipping employee. And
Yeah.
when we release each volume, like when volume 1 came out and volume 2, I flew to Ohio and helped pack and mail. We clogged up the post office.
We did. We had to go into the back dock area to drop off the books.
Yeah, we did all this ourselves. When I say we did it ourselves, we did everything, including packing, shipping,
Everything.
That's
everything.
amazing.
So
You said 2,500?
yes,
2,500 of each volume out. Total is right around 7,500 books.
Wow.
Yeah. You guys worked hard.
we did.
We'll cut you some slack, I guess.
Thanks.
We just sold out of volume 2. It's gone now. We have a couple of copies on hand for, you know, if we get somebody that has a numbered set, because that's one thing we offered originally was, and that's the collector in us. We offered numbered sets that they're numbered like 98Ks. They're like, 1A, 1B, 1C.
Yep.
And, if we get somebody, we had one just, a week ago. Guy's like, oh man, I missed the boat. I've got book number whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
we got you covered, bro.
Yep. We do.
All right, so I've amassed some questions here. We got the from all
Bring
our
'em on.
friends. So we'll start with some subjective opinion style questions first, just to
Yeah.
see how you feel here about some things. Well, it's a nice easy one. Kelly, we'll take turns down the list.
Go ahead.
Do you consider the K98k more of a 33 standard model or a shortened Carabiner 98B, or a bit of both?
Oh boy.
I have my opinion. It's a shortened 98B, and I
Ooh,
have my reason for that. But let's see what Bruce says.
Well, that's a tough question because the standard model is like a shortened 98B with a straight bolt.
right.
So,
That's pretty much
I
the
mean,
only.
really, the 98B really started the whole thing going because it's modern tangent sight, bent bolt, just has a 29-inch barrel. That's the only difference, really.
All right, so
So,
we got two
yeah,
98Bs.
yep.
Yeah,
So on that, they already had the 98A from World War One. Why
Correct.
didn't they just kind of stick with that versus kind of creating something new? Was it just like they wanted a large ring receiver, or they just had a different route in mind for that?
What's really ironic is that Mauser had a tangent sight version of the Gewehr 98 before World War One, and there's a whole backtrack on why they ended up with the longest sight. There's politics involved, but there was actually a better rifle that the Germans didn't adopt, which is really, it's actually not surprising if you look into some of the politics and some of the turf wars going on in Germany at the time. But
Oh yeah.
um,
We knew
well,
there had to be a reason for the Langevisier sight to make it on there.
oh yeah, there was some favoritism at Spandau actually, but um, I lost track. Where were we?
All
No
right.
problem.
Sure.
K98A already existed. Why did they go for the B and then later on the K98K? So
Boy, that's a really good question because
that
it
is
had
a
a
good
bent
question.
bolt, small ring, very nice, handy rifle. Um, Probably just the tangent sight was already there.
Were they still tooled up? I know the 98B was in the 20s. Were they somehow still tooled up for that
No,
type of
Trust
rifle? Or?
that's those
no.
small ring production ended in 1918.
It may
Uh,
be the fact that the tooling was already in place. It also may be the fact, I mean, this is speculation. The Gewehr 98 was the standard service rifle, and it's a large ring, and the parts availability could have been an issue
yeah, parts
for
compatibility.
the Waffenmeister group. It's
Good point.
there's there's a lot of things
Mm.
that go into a decision like that, but a lot of people think that the German army in the interwar years between World War One and World War II was efficient and competent, and it actually wasn't. A lot of those decisions were made by small groups of people. There was no testing. There was no, and a lot of this information comes from the Handrich Sturmgewehr book, which
And you do think that like the Germans had someone supervising the supervisor,
they did not. They actually did not. There was no one watching the hen house because no one cared about it. It was not an issue. They just they weren't thinking about that in 1920s. They had other problems.
Well, plus it
And
was a politically chaotic time too, so there's a lot of upheaval.
yeah.
yeah,
But if
to
you
say the
read if
least.
if you read Sturmgewehr, there's a lot of information on that period with the development of the 98B that that he goes into some really good detail with documentation and stuff about that. We covered it in our book, and most of the information came from his work, and it's credited in there. But I actually spoke
In
with
your
him.
volume one, you have 98B, and
Yes,
okay,
yes, you'll
now I
see because I'll
now I
make sure
need
you get a copy.
it.
I'll send you my PayPal. You can PayPal me for
You
it.
got. All right, but maybe not after I ask this next question here. This is the number one question asked, so I have to ask it. I reworded it a little bit, but everyone wants to know what factories were making the highest quality K98Ks at the start of the war. So say 39, you have
That's
8.
subjective though.
It
Yeah,
is, but in your
well,
opinion,
I'd say
this is
Mauser,
the
Mauser
subjective
Oberndorf.
section.
I say Mauser Oberndorf. They had the best.
And I think I know Bruce is going to say that as well.
Let's hear him say it.
That's all he collects.
You know what though? I've seen rifles by all the manufacturers, and it's a tough call. I mean, the Mauser quality was high, but there was a lot of the other manufacturers had equally high quality too. I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, they were all good.
Very diplomatic of you, Bruce.
Yeah.
That
Very
is.
diplomatic.
I
I'll
mean,
say
there's-
Mauser.
actually, I collect Mauser, but I've got a really high opinion of the BLM product in the mid to late 30s.
Is
Now
there
go to the late war years and let's ask that question about the late war years.
Oh, that's easy.
No,
Well,
it's
well, when
not
the
easy.
Germans are down to serializing the screws, they were really putting out a good product at that time.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Mike, you can elaborate on the Czech factories. They were really high quality
So
during the
that's
war.
at the end. That's at the end of the war. He's talking about
Yeah.
the early war guns,
Yeah.
with the numbered screws and the
Right.
insanity of lock screws with inspections on them. Oh,
Well, even-
that's very, very German.
I would say Mauser. Generally, Mauser had the best quality because, believe it or not, Mauser measured themselves against everyone else.
They did.
I
Yeah,
believe
they
it.
did. They actually brought in data on competitors, and compared, their data
They
against the competition.
they brought rifles in. They brought rifles into
Wow.
the factory and tested them. And that's why I talk about the late war years. Everybody knows that the late war guns are just terrible. And since I'm Mr. Late War, I'm bringing this conversation to late war. Uh, so in 1944, in order to Albert Speer had this system where each factory had to tell you how many guns shot a perfect score on their first shooting, how many had to be repaired. They called it Anschuss, and Mauser and the Czech factories had similar results in 1944. And the Mauser factory ordered the Czechs to send them a bulk of rifles with the same ammunition that they were shooting so that they could do the test themselves. And the Czech factory guns actually met the expectations. And these are just random, guns off the assembly line. So Mauser actually could
And-
not believe that this Czech factory was making guns as high quality as them
Yep, they
in
were.
1944, but they
Yep.
were.
They're way underrated.
Steyr was the worst.
Wow. I was going to say next,
Yeah.
who would be the worst? Steyr?
Steyr.
Yeah, absolutely.
How
Wow.
The worst.
anything stand out for bad during the early war years? Or not quite as high quality?
No.
Even Steyr's quality early was kind of sloppy.
Right.
If you take a 660 1940 or a BNZ 41, quality's not bad, but you compare that to a Mauser gun, it's just light and day. The fit and finish, the metal finish, just the surface finish, degree of fit, it's just Mauser
Wow.
quality was way higher than Steyr at that time.
I'd say Steyr was the worst throughout the war, and Mauser was the highest throughout the war. If you had to pick one who had the best and one who had the worst, my opinion would be Mauser best, Steyr worst.
Wow. I didn't think you guys would have a worst. I thought you'd be
See, you don't
trying to
know.
toe the line.
Yeah,
We're
you heard
regular
it.
guys. We drink beer. We talk talk crap to each other. You know,
You heard it here, folks.
you heard it here. We're very open to meeting people. Like when we go to the show of shows, hey, come talk to us. We love new people because there's new perspectives. I like it. Even guys that just started. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, there's a lot that just started now during the pandemic. I noticed a lot more collectors on the scene,
Yeah,
newbies.
yeah, and
Mm.
I like them. I mean, I'm actually jealous. I had a guy on our forum. He posted it was an absolute a garbage pile. It was a terrible gun, but he was so excited, and I saw that as I saw that enthusiasm and I was like, yeah, that I remember that. It was nice.
Well, we all had to start somewhere, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
You know, when we started in the old days before the internet was so big like this, you could hide your newbie status, but now you have people buying $1,000 rifles and then posting, "Hey, what do I have?" Is that
Yeah.
something that bothers you guys when you see that with a
That's a
K98?
fool and his money, basically. Well, it's hit or
Yeah.
miss. I mean, you've got guys buying a boatload of crap for a lot of money, and it's like, dude, you didn't look at the books, you didn't do the research, you just thought it was nice, and you shelled out the money, and guess what? You got burned. So
Yep.
it's a roll of the dice. It truly is.
Yeah, you see a lot of that with 98Ks, it seems like, especially.
Yes. It's unfortunate, but if you actually look at other collecting genres, the same thing happens with carbines, Garands, O3s, Gewehr 98s, uh,
Lugers.
Oh yeah.
Lugers, P38s. It's not a unique phenomenon that the 98K is full of fakes.
Yep.
It's
Just anything pricey, anything you could make money on.
anything collectible
You can make
is a
money.
target. I mean, they make fake Beanie Babies, so everything is faked.
Yeah, once you start hitting a certain financial, you know, shelf, then it
And
brings in
that's
all the unsavory people,
and that's one
unfortunately.
and that's one of the reasons for our online forum is people can get almost all of the information from our books for free on our forum. It's not as laid out as easy, but if you
Yeah,
spend some time and learn, you can get everything from our books because a lot of it came from discussions on our forum between collectors. We
Yeah.
we discuss these things.
and
Well, we don't play hide the weenie on the forum either. In other words, as versus other forums, that if somebody throws a turd up there, excuse my language again, but we're
there
gonna
you
call it
go.
out. We're gonna call it out.
Yep, that's what I appreciate about that, especially like the for sale forum. People like
I
I
mean,
know.
I've had to
Big time.
apologetically say, "I'm sorry, guy, but you got a bad gun there." I feel bad for the people, but it's like,
Some people take it well, and those are the people that usually stick around and turn into something. But some people do not like to be told that they're wrong, and they will go find someone else or somewhere else to tell them they're right. And there is avenues out there that will tell you, "Oh yeah, that's good."
yeah, they can go to
Yeah,
the Facebook forum.
they're looking for
Oh,
an echo chamber,
you
and
Yeah,
slam you
when they
slam
get the
Facebook,
truth,
Bruce. Did you just
sorry.
slam the Facebook people? You're
Oh
Facebook's
God,
tough.
Uh
Bruce did
There's good
that.
and bad on Facebook. There's good and bad.
Bruce did that. I didn't do that.
sorry.
There's a lot of
Bruce
bad,
Karam.
but there's some good.
Bruce Karam did that.
Okay, bad me.
No, I'm just kidding. He's right.
oh. All right. Another one of our questions that we gathered on just random manufacturing things. This one's specific to Mauser. Is why would they take on a contract to make 98Ks for Portugal in 1941 when they're already in a war? Sure.
Business
Yeah, they
taking
needed money.
orders. If you've got manufacturing capability and you got a big order for 60,000 guns, if you can manufacture them, why not make them? It's good business.
There's something you got to remember too. In 1941, the German military slowed orders at the beginning of 41 because they thought that the Russian campaign was going to fold like a cheap suit and they wouldn't need a bunch of arms. So I'm
Wow.
sure that may play a part in this decision of Mauser because if you look at the very first Portuguese contract, they're straight Mauser, German accepted guns.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the very first ones are 100% Wehrmacht guns with Portuguese serial and insignia stamped on the stock. There's literally no difference between a 37, you know, Wehrmacht gun and a 37 Portuguese.
No, that was the first model in 37.
Oh yeah,
The
41.
contract in 41 was
Oh yeah,
still
you're right.
still specifically walnut stock guns, but they were all military inspected, just like
Oh
a
yeah, you're
regular
right.
98K.
Yeah.
I'm confusing the
And,
two.
and they're almost priced the same as a K98K.
Yeah, they are.
You seen those?
Yeah.
Actually, a mint Portuguese with a matching bayonets has a really expensive price point now.
Oof.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I don't see him much. I'm always watching. I'll take a look at every Mauser, even if I'm not going to buy it. But
They used to be pretty common, but they've really dried up. But as Mike said, they get into late 41 and early 42, and it's called the rifle crisis. Basically the Russian campaign, they got bogged down. And they figured this ain't going very good. And so all of a sudden they're short armaments production. So it's called the rifle
oh,
crisis in 1942.
and they took these rifles, a lot of them, right? The 41
Well, the
Portugal rifles.
contract prematurely ended, and about 20,000 guns got diverted back to Army
Yeah.
use.
Wow. 20,000.
There's also Portuguese actually reneged on part of the contract, so it's a combination of diversion to the Wehrmacht and then the Portugal's basically reneging on non-payment on part of the contract.
This is a question I actually had. Was there any design feature or update you wish that was made to the K98k, like adding sight ears or peep sight or increase the magazine, finger grooves, change the wood, something?
I say no. It's a beautiful gun.
Ooh,
I
that's a
like
great
it.
answer.
I like it like it is.
Okay.
It's beautiful in all its forms.
Mauser did experiment with the protected front sight that they used on the model 1935 Chilean carbine, and they
Oh,
actually built some 98Ks with that protected front sight.
ooh,
In fact, there's a picture of in volume one. There's a picture of a guy shooting one of those prototypes.
Okay, that's cool.
That would have been the only kind of a cool thing that they could have done. Otherwise, Mike's right. I mean, it's a pretty streamlined design.
On the praise of the 98K, where would you rank it to its peers of the time? So the other bolt action rifles that it was either up against or fighting side by side with, like the Lee Enfield or the Carcano, the M95,
Mosin.
Moss 36, Type 99. Where would you kind of rank it within that range? I
Well,
assume it's probably near the top.
Mike, you go first.
Of course. Let everyone down. Uh, I would say that, I mean, the 1903 was a copy of the Mauser Action, so you can just throw that one right out. Uh, I
I'd
would
expect the
say,
K98 guy to say that about the 1903. I
yes,
know
of
it is, but
course.
it's still
Of course I'm gonna say that.
it was an
It's
improvement.
whatever. Keep it up. Uh, I would say the Lee Enfield was a have you ever shot a Lee Enfield? It's very
Yeah,
smooth. And the
Yeah.
nice.
detachable magazine was really nice.
Yep.
And the sights are really good.
But Paul Mauser moved away from cock on close for a reason, I think.
It's because when you cock on close, it's difficult to cock.
Yeah.
It's it's hard. It takes a lot of effort. And uh I would say the infield is up there with Mauser. I mean, if you're going to put them on a list, I'd say infield and 98K are on par, but you can't compare a Carcano or an
No.
O3. I mean, an O3 is a really nice gun. Don't get me
And
wrong.
the
I
99 is
have
another
some.
Mauser ripoff.
The 99, that's
The Type 99 is actually a really good rifle.
Oh,
and
they're
the
at
Mosin. The Mosin is it's
bottom.
Crude
rough.
but
Yeah.
effective.
It's crude but effective.
You know, the guns were all serviceable. Even the Carcano's not a bad gun. It's a strong action. It's simple. You know, the 6.5 is a little weak, but
But there's a little accuracy thing with the K98 that people say it's the most accurate, and then there's people arguing that it's not.
oh,
You
I
know
can't.
what? It really is going to depend on there. It's like any other accurate rifle. The stock, the barrel, the sights, all those can be factors in accuracy with a
Yeah,
Mauser. And a lot of people that have problems with 98K accuracy, their guns are mismatched. You know, they've got the stock from one gun, band from
Right.
another, sight from another. So when the Germans built these guns, they test fired them, and they
they
had
had.
requirements.
They did. If they did meet requirements, the gun got routed back for rework internally.
And even scrapped. There's a percentage, I think 5% of guns that were made that were completely scrapped.
We call that a yield rate on overall production.
Yeah, they had a yield rate. I think isn't it 5%, Bruce?
I
Something like
think
that.
it's somewhere between 4 and not up. We figured around a 95 or 96% yield on overall production.
So that means
Wow.
4% of the guns made were totally disassembled. The parts were ground of serial numbers, and the
Well,
parts
they
were
could also fail pressure test, proof testing. They could have failed that. They could have failed repeatedly failed accuracy test, and just the gun would not shoot straight.
so saying this Mauser's not accurate, and that's where you get that where one guy says they suck and one guy says they're great is because they're shooting two different things.
Some of it could be political too. Some guys are, very
Pro.
territorial. And,
Yeah,
the U.S.
right.
guns are
Pe-
better than the German guns, or the British
Sounds
guns
like
are better.
It's
there's a
mostly
pro
that.
1903 guy here.
No, no,
So,
no. It's mostly no, no. It's mostly that though. It's mostly that when you are a fan of one of the rifles, you'll defend it and figure out a way to say it's better than everything else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
It's
what we
true.
all agreed on was the Carcano and the Mosin are a step below
Oh yeah.
the K98 and the
Definitely.
03.
Yeah.
They're very robust, but so is a Dodge Dart with a slant 6. It's just
Right.
not that great.
So we purchase a lot of guns online on auctions, gun broker, proxy bid, all that stuff. Do you guys do any purchasing online? I was curious. Or
Yeah, I do.
on gun broker, or do you even go into like Rock Island auctions and
Um,
Morphe's?
I bought guns at Rock Island. I bought guns from Gunbroker. I bought guns from various auctions in different parts of the country.
Oh,
Um,
so right
I,
off the bat, can we just agree that people that don't take a clear picture of the receiver or deserve
uh,
to be bunked?
photos are everything on an auction.
Yes.
Take a picture from 10 feet away.
Mike,
I like those auctions.
didn't you buy that BCD4 you traded me with very limited pictures?
I did. No, there was no photos.
None.
Wow.
None. Are you
Whoa.
talking about the machine gun barrel gun?
No, the one you traded me for the B and Z. Remember, N block BCD4.
Uh, Geez, that's been so long ago.
Yeah,
But let me think about that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Trade you to
did.
my. Yep.
I bought it. It had very few photos. I bought my first machine gun barrel BCD4 on Gunbroker. It had been on Gunbroker for years, and there was no photos. And when you contacted the seller and asked him for photos, he would send you. They wouldn't go through. He couldn't send photos because they were too big. So I said, "Send me one photo." And guess what? It came through, and it was a machine gun barrel BCD4, and it'd been in there for years, and it was priced cheap.
Wow, you got a nice deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and that's how you do it. You get lucky.
Actually, I got an SS rifle that Mike is in Mike's collection now for a song and a dance at an auction out of California about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, for
Yeah.
like 25% of what it was worth.
So, have you had any bad luck where somebody you got something and it wasn't what was advertised or
Well, I've gotten a few
anything like
stinkers.
that?
Oh yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I've gotten a few stinkers. Nothing. I've been bit too bad, but I've gotten bit.
Yeah, I bought a rifle from Rock Island, and it was advertised a, s- a certain way, and they even used pages from my book to advertise a rifle. And I got the rifle, and it was completely bad. And I contacted them like, "Well, we put pictures." I was like, "Yes, you also put pictures of my book, and it ain't like that." And they're like, "Oh, we'll take it back." So, I got
yeah.
my
When you
money back
can,
on that one.
when you say that, hey, you used my
Yeah,
pictures, so
Yeah,
that's that's my
a
photos.
lot of people do that. They pull pic. They say, "Oh, what's in the book?" It's like, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we do see auctions online where people will, post pages of our book, and the gun is completely bogus.
Yeah, I've
And
seen just photos of your book as like the last photo in
yeah,
the listing.
yeah,
It's just
and
weird.
the gun's bad, and they're using our book to sell a gun. So
All right, we can't
it's
control it.
we can't control it.
yeah.
So
So, have you noticed any pattern with the German K98s versus Russian captures. I've noticed Russian captures getting higher up and like
Yeah,
post-war, and ones that were usually the cheaper versions are catching up now to the
I
K98.
I totally have, and I mean I've even participated. I bought a Russian capture 6 months ago and paid like $800 for it.
Yep.
All right, that's
Seven
good. I'm
seven
glad it's that much for you too.
750. Uh, well, it was on our forum for sale, and people were going, "Ah," and I was like, "That's a great gun for a decent price." I bought it.
Yeah.
It's sitting here. So, I like 98Ks. It was an AR-43. It's really good condition. All original Russian. A lot of those Russian capture guns have been modified, and this was one that hadn't been. And I'm like, hey, this is
So
collectible.
of the how many 12 million plus made, how many are do you think are like what not, I don't want to give exact numbers, but like how many you think are original and not a million things done to them? Like is it a very low percentage? Because you just said all original except for it's a Russian capture.
Oh, that's a tough
Yeah,
question.
Like
that's
is it
tough.
well, is it a lot or a little? Give me
A
that.
lot, a little,
A little.
a little.
I'd
Yeah,
say
that's
less than a million, probably.
Oh,
Maybe
I guess
way less.
probably most of those would be bringbacks to the
Well,
yeah.
U.S.
I would
Yeah.
say that at least half of the production was ended up in Russia, and probably half of that got destroyed, and the other half got Russianized. And then most of the captures in the U.S. region were destroyed. The British didn't destroy the weapons they captured. Um, so, yeah,
It's
it's
too that's too subjective. I
a
don't think you
really
can.
hard question.
It's a really hard question, and you see a all matching gun, and you naturally think, well, this must be a vet bring back. But there was a lot of guns that were imported in the 50s and 60s that were completely matching, and
There's a ton of good
They were
guns that
just
came in
closeted
through
until yeah.
inner arms. Yeah.
I was gonna ask about Royal Tiger imports. Are you familiar with those guys?
I am
How do you feel about these? Their K98s, either they're wire wheeled or the other ones are refinished. How do you feel about
garbage,
people?
garbage.
Thank
They're
you.
garbage. I mean, for the price people are paying, you can find a nice gun, even if you found one that was completely mismatched in better condition
Yeah,
than that junk. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion.
they have some rare variants that sometimes are like $150 or 200, where you all right, maybe someone rolls the dice, but those K98s were all about $1,000.
They
Yeah,
were
that
they were
That's
terrible.
just
was
that's
bad.
yeah, that's poor guy that tries to unload it down the road after he's shelled out $1,000.
Right.
There's a lot of collectors of milsurps that don't have time to do research, and I know this sounds callous, but they're sitting in a lounge chair or a rocking chair in their house, and they're confined, maybe because they're older, and they believe things from these companies. They believe the hype.
You're giving too much credit. Like it's
Yeah,
just
I know.
it's the ease of clicking add to cart and send.
Yeah.
But I'm not really doing that because I've met these people. That's the thing. I've met these people that have bought these guns, and I feel bad for them because they're falling prey to the consumerism and
Well, it's hype
the
too.
advertising,
Yeah.
the
Speaking
hype.
of,
It's the
uh,
YouTube hype.
Uh-oh. Wait,
um,
he
uh,
said, speaking of, I know what's
Yes,
coming.
he
I
knows.
think
There it
you
is.
know what's coming. I'm sure
I
this
know
will
what's
make your
Do it.
coming.
skin crawl of Mitchell's Mausers.
I
Oh,
knew
geez.
it.
Yeah.
I knew that would come up. That's okay.
I think
Those
I already
guys,
know your opinion on them.
The
actually,
lowest of the low.
yeah. Well, it's to me, it borders on criminal.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear you say that.
It's so
It's
bad.
terrible. And they took advantage of older people, like I said, that got their ads and hyped up these things as
Well,
See,
something
I
they're
didn't
not.
know they added serial numbers and markings and all that. I thought they just refinished them, which was
Oh no, all of the
bad enough.
numbering on them are fake. All the bolts,
Yeah.
trigger guards, bands, all that numbering is, I say fake
It's embellishment.
embellished. I mean,
And then they
it's
make a star out of the Russian capture X, or they add
yeah,
a
they
Well,
make it
didn't
look
they
like a
actually
snowflake.
didn't they actually claim in their ads that they were refurbished in European arsenals? That bullshit.
Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
that's
Good
right.
grief.
Yeah, sure.
Look, it boils down to this. A lot of those guns, first of all, they've got a bright steel bolt, which the 98K never had. And all the numbering on those is redone to be generous.
I mean, the
It's
Waffenants are redone. Right, everything is.
no,
No,
I don't think they stamp Waffenops on them. They
I thought
left
they
the old
did.
ones. Well, they may have. I'm not sure
I
about that.
I
But
thought I saw a complaint, but all right, cereals are bad enough though.
Yeah.
it's if somebody's going to buy a 98K and it says Mitchell's, $400 is a shooter. Great gun. They're great for shooters. If you just want a shooter
Yeah,
and you
but
can use the Mitchell,
Oh,
some of those guns are selling for over $1,000. The presentation grade, good grief.
Yeah, with
that's
the
ridiculous.
made up certificate of
And the
authenticity.
case,
Yeah.
and oh my God, yeah.
But now, you can't throw Mitchells under the bus completely because they brought some really good Yugo AKs in. The M48s they brought in are great guns.
did they
So
turn them into anything else?
no,
Oh,
they're straight. The Mitchell Yugo AKs are really good guns. There's some good ones. And the Yugo M48s and M48Bs, great guns. If you want a good shooter, I mean, Mitchell brought some really good guns in. It's the 98Ks. They took
I'm
advantage of people, and it's a shame,
Yeah, yeah.
in my opinion. My
I'll
lawyer told me to say that.
pass on.
Yeah. So I guess we have one more quick opinion question for like a newer collector on a budget. Is it worthwhile to try and get a Sporter K98 that has not had the metal altered and like try and restore what some people would call it, like find a new stock and furniture and all the small parts, or bring it back to military configuration, or just kind of skip that step and save up your money?
No.
I think for almost the same price, you can get a bolt mismatch.
Well, I kind of disagree with Bruce on this. Uh, I say yes, do it because you learn a lot about 98Ks by rebuilding one. It forces you to study Waffenops. It forces you to study stock configurations, and it could turn you into a good collector.
I like
But
that answer.
Yeah, he has a
but
good point.
but Bruce is right that a lot of times the money you spend restoring a gun, you could just save the money up and buy a bolt mismatch. But me as a collector and where I came from, I rebuilt a lot of guns from scratch and I learned a lot. And it almost drove me insane, which caused me to be the person I am today. So,
Very nice.
So,
and wrote a book.
in your
Wrote a book on it.
collection, are in your both of your collections though, are they majority matching or not matching?
Matching.
98% match, 99% matching.
I'd expect that of you guys. I'm on the
98%
low
match.
percentage. I won't say my percentage, but I'm on the lower. I accept
But that's fine.
mismatch deals to get examples.
I actually do that too. So my matching percentage is actually probably lower because I accept certain, transgressions against Mauser, lore to
Yeah.
get an example. I'll do that. But I don't do sanded stocks. I don't do that.
Right?
It's
You shouldn't have to.
No. No sanded stocks. Don't accept that.
Okay, boys and girls, it's time again for America's favorite game show, Milsurp Trivia. It is America's favorite. I'm going to present you with 5 K98K related questions, and as always, it's just a fun way to present some information to you guys. So we won't keep score, and we'll just yell out the answers. I doubt I'm going to stump you guys, but if you want to poll the audience or something, maybe we could do that. I don't know. So here we go. We have 5 questions. Question 1. The only all-letter code used by a K98K manufacturer that actually represented the initials of the factory and was not one of the secret codes. And then,
BSW.
yes, of course you know, but my question is, of course, why Why were they the only one that didn't use a secret code?
I think I know the answer.
Well,
You could
Mike
yell
did
it
the
out.
chapter.
I did the chapter
Oh, perfect.
because, okay, the Treaty of Versailles only allowed one factory to make parts for the German military, which was Simpson Sewell, and BSW was BSW took over Simpson, and I think that because they were the only factory actually allowed by law to make
Of the
Conveyor
carryover.
98
Yeah.
carryover that's why they were allowed to use their
Ooh.
actual factory name. That's my opinion. I don't know if it's true, but it seems to make sense.
You know what? I like that answer. That makes sense.
I like it.
There you go.
All right, I'll take it.
All right.
Through most of World War II, all German soldiers that carried a firearm were issued a Reinigungsgerät 34, which your book actually has numerous photos and I think 6 pages of information on these. What was the RG-34?
Cleaning kit.
Correct, with all this stuff. This seems like a lot of stuff that did this go till the end of the war? 'Cause
Actually,
I saw
Mike is your cleaning
45.
kit expert.
Oh, I have a sickness.
He's
And
nice.
Another thing to collect.
the only thing that will solve it is more cleaning kits.
Well, when I saw your photos, I was like, "He's so into these kits right now."
Oh,
You took multiple angles of the same it's awesome.
it's me. I'm sick. I'm sick with it. But yes, in your photo, all of those components were in the cleaning kit until the very end of the war.
I would have thought for sure by the end they just said, "Alright, stop the kit."
Nope.
Nope.
I've got cleaning kits from the last days of World War II, and they have all of those components that you show in that photo. Because in this photo, you have an oiler, a chamber cleaning brush to the left, the one with the spot in the middle. No, the one on the far left. This is a bigger brush was actually the one on the left is for the bore, and the one in the middle is the chamber, and then the chain at the top, which were also useful for the MP44, which was the 98K's replacement.
That makes sense.
So the cleaning kits were made for MP44s as well,
Wow, so they
and they
made a lot of kits then.
millions, millions. Don't start collecting them. Trust me, not worth it.
You need to get the book to see the real number, but there's at least 8 or so different latches on them. It's crazy.
Gets worse than that, but go ahead.
All right, we talked about this before, but this manufacturer was also a major supplier of receivers to JP Sauer, and theirs can be identified easily by their use of this Gothic font for their Mod 98 receiver markings. And our question was, why did they go so crazy?
That's a
I would
final
say
question, Mike.
it's
That's a
FIMA, but
follow-up, yeah.
it's also Irma.
I
Yeah.
called it Irma, but I wasn't sure
Irma.
if Feynman and Irma did the same.
And they did, but the reason why is because Irma was an old school World War One manufacturing facility, and they loved the old Gothic German things. I'm assuming, and they stuck with that Gothic script for a long time. Actually, with FIMA, they changed it to the standard block
Oh,
lettering.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, was there like a standard or like a mandate, or was it just like make sure it says
Uh,
Mod 98 on the side? We don't care how it's written.
that's anybody's guess. There's no paperwork that says one way or another, but you know,
No,
at a
just like
certain point,
just like all the different fonts they use, there was no standard on that.
well, there was a
yeah,
certain
that's
point
annoying.
in Germany where they went from Suderland script to the I can't remember what it's called now, a more block Latin
Latinish?
font.
Yeah.
Well, no, they had there's a term for it. I don't know what it's called now, but it was actually mandated. The font change, and if you look at manuals from the period, starting about 1941 or 42, the Germans mandated a change in script to the new Latin style block script. So it was actually, top down control, just like all other authoritarian regimes, top down.
My last 98 I got because I was debating it, and then I saw the Gothic script. I'm like, "Oh, wait, this is a nice
Yes.
Gothic script. I'm gonna get it." And I got this was the
Oh,
deciding factor.
you pattern collector, you.
Sorry. I needed an early one. I have a 36.
Ooh,
So I have an early,
that's
a
early.
middle, and a late, but I don't have Kriegsmodel or Kriegsmodell yet. I have to get there.
That's the most important one.
I know. I could tell from your full book on it. I mean, it must be crazy that how many have you touched in your hands at this point?
Uh,
It's got to be hundreds at this point,
I
no?
don't know if I want to admit this. I could tell you BNZ 45s. Let's just go BNZ 45s. I've probably owned 50 and touched hundreds
Yeah. Wow.
just from, going to gun shows because that's what I focused on. I say 50. I probably didn't own 50, probably 40,
Oh,
That's
okay, just 40. Yeah.
but I didn't keep them
of
all.
1 year, one model.
I'm a one guy. I can collect one of everything. I don't collect duplicates.
Yeah.
So
But my problem is I go to upgrade, but then I end up having two of everything.
Nothing
you
wrong
should
with
sell
that.
your no, you should sell your upgrade. Don't ever
I
keep it.
I have to.
Nope, you should sell it.
All right, I'll do it. You know what? You told me I'll do it now.
I'll tell you why. I could tell you why to sell, but let's answer the podcast trivia.
All right. All right, here we go. The Scheissbecker, which is was introduced in World War II, but was based on a design from World War One, and could be used with a number of other weapons chambered for 8mm Mauser, like the K98A, 9840, or even the FG42.
Bruce,
I don't know.
a grenade
Oh,
launcher.
Okay,
who
I
who
knew
had
he
the
didn't know.
grenade launcher chapter?
That was me.
Mike.
Makes sense.
I was a reenactor for a while, so
Like, I
mhm,
don't see these
I shouldn't
much.
have said that.
I look at auctions just to see what's high end. I don't see anyone selling any of these. Are they around still?
They're pretty rare for some reason.
Th-
Uh,
Somewhere I
Yeah,
read they made 1 million plus or something.
they had to have.
yeah,
But
I'm sure they had millions, but yeah, you almost never see them. They go for pretty good money.
yeah,
Scheissbecker. It's Scheisse Scheissbecker.
she's
Did you say
better.
Scheissbecker?
I said shy.
Eh,
I'm sorry.
Scheissbecker's a completely different thing, just so you know.
Now,
You know,
if it would have been a Gewehr or not Gewehr, then I would have known what it was. But
Yes.
Scheissbecker.
Oh, your
my
audience
Austrian
might
friend's
like
gonna be
this. Okay,
upset.
the word Scheissbecker. Do you see how it's SCHIE?
Yeah, that
In
threw
the
me
German
off.
language, IE pronounce the E. If it's EI, you pronounce the I. Well, Scheisse and Schieße are two different things, but that's all I'll say.
they're
I
very
know
different things.
Shiza, of course.
So if you see
But what's a Sheezer?
Schieß is shoot.
Oh, like a parachute.
No, shoot like firing
Oh,
a
like
gun.
fire. Oh,
Fire, like firing. Becker is probably thrower. I don't know. I don't speak German. I use a lot of online translators, but I do understand pronunciation, and I get it wrong sometimes, and I get corrected by the German members of our forum when I type Kriegsmodel instead of Kriegsmodel.
right, right.
Kriegsmodel.
They do not like it.
I, I think they know what you mean.
No, they know what I mean, but they make sure to correct me.
All right. Trivia number 5, last one. Here we go. So far, you guys, I'm surprised you got them all. Early in the war, thousands of K98Ks were purchased by this country and were updated with a muzzle brake and
Oh,
rechambered for the country's 8x63mm
Ah,
round for use as anti-tank rifles. What'd you
that's
think of
actually
these?
incorrect. That's actually
Oh,
incorrect, but
Uh-oh. Come on, Tom.
you know what? I'll tell management. We'll get up there. Tell them.
You're
all
taking
right.
us out of your
Bruce,
taking us out of
I'm
your
gonna let you
paycheck.
handle this because you've bought and sold these guns.
actually, I
Whoa,
have Swedish
correct. Sweden. But wait, you have
Yeah.
these?
Gewehr M40. Yeah, I've had them. Yes.
They're not anti-tank rifles.
Oh, what
The
was it?
the
No, it's a
8x63 millimeter round is their machine gun
Yeah.
round,
Yep.
and what they wanted is they wanted the number 1 and number 2 and number 3 guys for the machine gun crew to use the same ammo as the machine gun, so they converted them to the same round, so
So where
that they
does
would have the same ammunition between all the
Yeah.
guys.
You know
so
what's
where does
amazing
that
is the interesting thing about these guns is they're either rode hard and reworked as they come out of Israel, or they're brand new. There's no in between on these guns.
And you had 8x63 ammo to shoot these?
No, I've actually had two of these, and I passed them on because they weren't Mauser, but um, yeah, even the ammo's tough to get.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That was fun.
All right.
Bruce got one wrong.
Sorry.
Oh, we
Keep that
stumped
in
them.
mind.
gotta go study now?
Mm,
All right. So we'll move
no,
it.
he knows.
We'll go to different questions now. We'll move
Okay,
away
cool.
from the trivia and the user submitted ones, and we'll go to some more technical, not too crazy though, because we are on a audio podcast. But one thing to note was I was going through a bunch of questions and I noticed a bunch of patterns. A lot of people asking, even on your forums, is my rifle correct? What could you tell me about my rifle questions? So all those people I said, go get a book or look at the forums. You know, that's something
I,
you have to figure out yourself.
I think that's a lot of our responses from the moderators is, hey, we've got a we've got books, we've got
Right.
a picture reference, extensive picture reference on the forum. Do your homework, guys. I mean,
Teach
I
them
think a lot
to
of guys want to
fish.
take the easy way out. Oh, I bought this. What I got? Come on.
Yeah, especially with the internet, it's so much easier to
Well,
research now.
I'm a little more
Crazy.
moderate on that. I like to try to help those guys, but you can tell within one or two posts if they're
Serious.
redeemable. Redeemable is the word I use. A lot of those guys, they really don't care. They want to know if they got a deal. That's it. They care about the
Right.
money.
That's true.
It, if you care about the money, then our forum is not for you. If you care about the history, there's a lot of guys that will help you dig down deep, even if you have a completely mismatched gun, and help you explain every little marking if they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what
It's
it boils down
frustrating.
to. Do you care about the money or do you care about milsurps? You know, milsurps.
Uh,
I say.
Now Mike's right. There's guys that look at it like two classes of people. One guy picks up a gun and said, "This is really cool, history, the features." Other guy looks at it. Oh, what's it worth? That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that all
Yeah.
the
Right.
time.
You
not
Yeah.
know,
redeemable.
you
Not
know,
redeemable.
we hang out with I don't know if you follow Milsurp World on YouTube. It's Danny and Aaron, those fellas. But we
No.
hang out in that Discord, and one of our things is there's nobody there that is just asking for how much it's worth. It's more about this is really cool. Look at this history. What could you tell me about it?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that about those fellas.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
98K world is the well of 98Ks is so deep. And trust me, me and Bruce have written four books on it. I still haven't seen the bottom. It's deep.
Good.
There's much more. And
No,
if
that's
you
yeah.
if you want to get into something that you'll never find all the answers, this is it.
No,
Yeah.
you never find all the codes. You'll never find all the variations. It's impossible.
We learn something new every year. Every year.
Even when I was trying to make a list of every manufacturer code ever, and I started writing them down, and then all of a sudden my list became slash MB. Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And I said, "Wow, there's so many stories here. I don't know."
Yeah.
Well,
That's why.
it's like BSW. When I was writing the BSW chapter, everybody knows BSW started in 1937. And look at that. I like that little chart you got. So everybody knows BSW starts in 1937. And
Oh,
I got an email from a guy from Russia that said, "Sir, this is what I have." It was a BSW 1936. And I was like,
uh-oh.
"You're
Well,
kidding me." It's the only one that's ever been reported, and it's legit.
Really? I thought you were gonna say it was fake.
Nope, completely legit. In fact, about 6 months ago, a friend of mine that lives nearby says, "Hey, I got something to show you." And he's like, "I got a BSW 1936." I was like, "You're full of BS. No way." He pulls out a barrel from an MG MG08, and it's marked BSW 1936. So
Hmm.
they do exist, but they're exceedingly rare, and there's one or two at least in the United States. So you guys get out there and find it. It's gold. Oh, I've got a surprise for you guys. I've I've got a surprise for you guys at the end that
Ooh,
Ooh, all right.
as far as like 98K production, I can't wait to drop it on you, but
ooh. All right,
it's going
don't
to be
Ooh.
forget.
fun.
Don't forget.
Oh, I'm not going to forget. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the moment to drop this.
All right, all right. All right, I'll move on. I'll move on here. Here we go.
Yeah,
So
hurry up.
a big group of questions came in that were people asking about when things were done, like when did they switch to the cup butt plates and the laminate stocks and stuff. And I told them all, go to the book, go to the forums. But
We can tell you.
can we
Yeah,
clearly say, was there a set time for all those changes for all the manufacturers at the same time, or was it different per manufacturer?
It was not uniform. No, it was different per manufacturer.
Like the removal of the underside of the rear sight, right? They had the graduations on there, and
Oh, like cup butt plates. Supposedly,
Okay.
cup butt plates show up in 1940 coded rifles, but I'm pretty sure they're early 41 production. But Mauser Berlin used flat butt plates well into 43, so that blew.
right.
It wasn't uniform, but that's the only manufacturer to use flat butt plates in 42 and 43. By early 42, it was all cup butt plates except for one maker.
So when those
Uh,
changes happened, was it like a mandate that came down? Like, all right,
well,
everyone, do this, and
most
they
of
were
the
just
changes happen in a lot of changes happen in 42. They simplified production, and then a boatload of changes happen in 44 with a much more simplified production.
So pretty much everyone was told what to do, but they weren't. It wasn't followed up whether they did it immediately or not.
Exactly.
There was mandated by the armaments office. Yeah.
But it wasn't followed. It wasn't followed strictly. You could tell that.
Like they could take
You
as
can
long as
find,
they
yeah,
wanted, I
you can,
guess.
well, you can find paperwork that says you will do this, and then if you look at the examples, they didn't do it. So it's
Yeah,
probably
but that
more a
could have been
symptom.
a physical situation with the factory or something, maybe.
Exactly, and that's what they would say. It's like, well, we have 100,000 flat butt plate stocks. We can't convert these, and they're like, okay, use them.
yeah, they're
The
not gonna.
Germans were very practical, but a lot of the changes like side hoods, flat butt plates, like laminate stocks, 1937 Mauser, you start seeing them, but
Mm.
they don't show up at other manufacturers in 1937.
Actually, I thought they showed up in late Sauer and Berlin as well in late 37.
Probably did.
Yeah.
I don't remember all that stuff. I wrote a book, so I don't have to remember it.
Just your
And
big personal note sheet.
and and for the record, the laminate was actually a stronger design, right, than the regular
Oh,
walnut.
a lot stronger.
And easier to manufacture because walnut stock blanks had to dry for months. Laminate stocks did not dry. They just created them.
Well, the development of laminate actually started in 36,
Ooh.
and it took them a year to get it all ironed out.
So, is there any truth to the red versus the white glue, one being stronger, or is it just kind of just a
It's true
collection?
in my opinion.
Well, they had a
Oh,
lot of problems with the white glue just falling apart. Some of them.
But not during the war. This is post-war. During the war, it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the storage just degraded the glue. It's mostly white glue you see delaminating.
Yeah, and that's a collector thing post-war.
but like post-war 50s, 60s or post-war 90s, 2000s? Like when did
Who
it
knows?
deteriorate?
Who
Oh,
knows?
I don't know. It took 70 years to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all depends on how it's stored. I've got rifles with white glue stocks that are perfect. I've
It
got
just depends on the batch
I've,
because
I got a BYF 44, ZF 41 with a white glue laminate stock, and it's absolutely perfect.
yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
all about storage.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were asking about the Kriegsmodel rifles if they were functionally different, and I was under the impression like the Arasaka rifles, they used more and more stamped parts, and then by the end, even though they didn't look pretty, they were still functionally the exact same, insides.
Yeah,
Guts.
they had the same acceptance standards as a 1944
Like
gun.
bolts, barrels, and receivers weren't changed, were they?
Yeah, I mean the metallurgy was strictly controlled. They didn't
Nice.
allow them to make cast parts that would break apart.
So none of them are gonna blow up,
No,
like some people
no,
say.
you're not going to have a DOU 45 blow up on you. It's just now there's a caveat to that.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
The B&Z guns, the Steyr guns, a lot of the concentration camp labor. You see a lot of stories about, and I did a lot of research on this. So you see a lot of stories about concentration camp sabotage,
Yeah,
but
that's
it wasn't that easy to do. It wasn't easy to sabotage stuff. But if you read enough, you'll find what those guys figured out was they could alter the heat treating and make the parts over hardened or
oh, so
under
they're
hardened.
brittle.
Right. And so
Eventually they'll give it out.
I had a BNZ 45
Uh-oh.
and the cocking piece was pink. It was so hard and it was cracked. And that was a perfect example of what those guys did. They actually succeeded in sabotage over hardening parts because everything that they made was sent through a Waffenacht inspection team, but they didn't inspect every part. They inspected one part in a batch.
Mm.
And some of those parts made it into guns that were then issued and then failed. But it's minor, but you know what? Good for those guys.
You know,
They did
Yep.
their job.
we were
They
going to ask if one of the FUD questions was it was a FUD lore that the concentration camp sabotaged the rifles, and everyone thought it was a joke. But you're telling me it's true?
it's true.
Oh, yeah.
They actually did.
Yeah,
They did.
there was even when even in Gustloff barrel production, there was a lot of scrap just due to the fact that through either a combination of training and sabotage, their yield was really low, and it was basically a failure on Gustloff's part.
So the Czech factories, we can talk about that if you want to talk about sabotage. What they did,
Oh, weren't the Czechs not captured, but they were employees of the Germans?
okay, yeah. So the Czech region was the Sudetenland. They weren't they weren't overrun, but they weren't willing participants in the Nazi ideal. So what the Czech factories did, if you look, the first DOU rifles start in 43, right? But think about
Mhm.
this, the Germans took over in 1939 or 1940. So what
Mm.
the Czechs did is, and I found this in my research, they convinced the Germans, look, we're making 98Ks here, but what you need to make is MG34s. And like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. They convert the factory over to MG34s, and then the Czechs say, oh no, we need 98Ks, not MG34s. And like, oh yeah. And they convert the factory back over to 98Ks. And then they come to him and say, oh, this is a problem. The tanks need MG34s. And they convert the factory back over to MG34. So they never truly converted the factories over until 1943. They slow rolled it for
Huh.
years, and that was their effort to thwart the
Wow.
Nazis.
Wow, that's smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they if you look at the numbers though, they did crank them out though, and they were putting them
Oh
out.
yeah. Yeah. They did, and they were
Brune
they,
one was almost as many rifles made in 44 as Mauser. Pretty
and
close.
they were one of the highest quality guns.
Yep.
So
But
they were
look,
they delayed, they stalled, but then they put
they
out
stalled.
they couldn't put out
But
a
think
bad
about it.
product.
Yeah, but think about it. If you stall for 3 years, that's that's so many rifles. So once they had to start, the Germans finally caught on and said, "No, you will make this." And, you know, things happened.
Rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
They only made him 2 years. Well, 3 years.
All right, so those Kriegsmodel rifles were 100% the same guts, so
Oh, sure.
at the time we're safe to shoot. Who knows about
Just
now?
simplified fittings and sheet metal, but same basic design. Yeah.
It was the same forgings like the gas shield, the same forging, they just didn't finish them.
Yep.
You hear about some Arasakas had some stamped steel receivers for
Hey
some of theirs.
guys,
No,
Yeah.
that was the Naval Special had a cast receiver
Yeah, that
because
thing.
because all the load bearing was in the barrel and bolt. So that's but that's the
Aren't-
That was
that's
pushing
the
it.
oh yeah.
All right, that's it for part 1. Make sure to check out part 2 where we get into fakes, FUDs, SS rifles, accessories, ammo, recoil, snipers, holy grails, and most important of all, what the next books are about. All this, plus we do the speed round, spin the wheel of Milsurp, and find out Mike's never before shared K98k production secret. Huh? Huh? Not really a cliffhanger, because part 2's out right now. Or not if you're listening the very first day or so.